Thank you so much for joining us today. To order more kits and accessories, please visit my website. The link is in the description, and have a wonderful day. This is your craft bench kit. You may have the 1/12 scale, the 1/24 scale, or the 1/4 inch. This directions that I'm giving you today will apply to any of them. There is a small change in the 1/4 inch one that I'll show you at the end of the video. To glue and start assembling this, we are going to use tacky glue. I really love this. It has a little bit of flexibility, and also if you mess up, you can peel it apart if you need to. In my world, that's pretty important sometimes. So squirt some on your work surface. You're going to want to use a toothpick or a pick tool. I love pick tools. This is my most favorite tool when people ask me what I like. You're going to have in your kit, you're going to have one separate baggie that has your drawers in it, one separate baggie that has your shelves in it. You can take those out as well and set them aside. I labeled them so they would stand out a little bit. If you take all your pieces apart, lay them out, we're going to start with our back panel. We're going to glue the left leg on first. These have these nice little notches in them, which make it really, really easy to know exactly where things fit and to keep everything perfectly square. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue in every single one of these little notches. Let's talk about staining and painting. In the directions, I do tell you in the very beginning, if you want to stain this kit, any aspect of it, you're going to want to do that in the very, very beginning before you start gluing. Because if you get glue on any part of wood, without sanding it, the stain will not soak in. So you're going to have a lot of glue marks if you did want to pre-sand it. I'm going to take my pick tool and I'm going to clean up any little bit of excess glue. I'm just going to assemble this with you today. I'm not going to stain or paint. So if you do want to do that, you want to pre-stain, and a lot of the painting you can do afterwards. But I would recommend when we get to the pegboard portion of this that you do pre-paint that before you glue it in place. Once you get your left leg on, you're going to glue your cross support in. The reason we're doing this next is because if you do this after you get your right leg on, you won't be able to get it in there. And it's going to be very frustrating. You're going to have to rip the leg off to get it in there. So put some more glue on here. You really don't need a lot of glue. Everything's going to hold together nicely. You need just enough glue to keep it together. Just pop it right in there like that. Then you're going to take your right leg. You're going to do the same thing on the back side of the right leg and fill in these little notches with a little bit of tacky glue. If you prefer using Weld Bond or Elmer's glue or wood glue, you are welcome to. I really do enjoy tacky because it gives you a little bit of flexibility. So if you drop something, say you're putting an entire house together, if you drop that, there may be some likelihood that it won't explode and fall apart. It might flex a little bit and actually survive the fall. Don't forget to put a little bit of glue on the other side of your crossbeam as well. I'm going to take and put the notched portion in first. Fit the crossbeam in as you come up. And that will probably be the hardest thing you do on this kit. Make sure that back fits, make sure everything is in place. I'm going to clean up a little bit of excess glue. And it's going to be tight because we didn't want a lot of wiggle room in there to flex. Alright, so that should be nice and square. Then you're going to take your front panel and you're going to glue this in place. You can choose to glue the legs that are already down on the table, or you can glue the front panel. Either way, it doesn't really matter. And you can just put it in one set of notches, or you can put it in the notch side and then on top of the notch side here, so that you actually have coverage on both sides of it. Then we're going to do this one. There is a lot of gluing on this kit, but it goes pretty quickly. I'm going to flip it over. There is two sides. There's a little bit of laser burn on this side, and I decided I want that in the back. There's not much of it, but there's always a little teeny bit. Make sure the glue comes off and you've got all your joins nice and tight. And you can see how nice and squared that is, because all these little notches fit together, so you really can't go wrong. You do want to be gentle though, because until the top gets on, it's a little more flexible. Okay, speaking of the top, now we're going to glue our tabletop in place, which is this nice thick piece of wood here. Again, choose which side you want to go on. There's a little tiny bit of laser burn on this side, so of course I'm going to put that on the underside of it. It's going to fit perfectly flush with the edges and the back. And the easiest way by far to put this on is to just put your glue on the craft touch itself, not the underside of the table, so that you know exactly where you want that glue to go. And even with this small amount, it's going to stick nicely. I actually find this rather therapeutic, sitting here assembling. Okay, once you get that on, you do want to put a bead of glue on the back side of your tabletop. Just enough to make it stick to the back of the craft bench. There we go. Center it. Make sure the back is flush. Push down gently. I'm going to clean off my pick tool and then start cleaning up a little bit of glue around. I'm a pretty picky gluer, and I really don't like excess glue sticking through things. And it does make for a nicer finish if you can keep your joints nice and clean. Alright, so we've got our tabletop in place. Next, we're going to make our drawers. Inside your drawer kit, you should have had 2 sides, 2 fronts and backs, 2 bottoms, and a set of handles, which is going to fit with you 2 pieces with your holes. Go ahead and take 1 base and put a little dab of glue along the edge here. And fit one of your drawer sides in place like that. And it really doesn't matter what order you do these in. What matters is that you just get them all on there. I know, so technical. I'm going to give myself a little bit of glue, a little more. I don't like putting too much out at once because then it starts to dry before I'm through. Okay, I've got one side, then I'm going to put the back side on. Now the way these fit together is just like the front legs. You need to make sure that they join like this. So this notch is going to be out on this back piece because it has a notch on this side here. Now an easy way to do these tiny little guys is just to go along the edge here like this and then put one dot in here. And then you also want to put a little bit along at this edge. Like so. And there's your back piece. Again, I'm going to clean up a little bit of glue as I go. We're going to put this side on. A little bit like here. And a little bit along the edge again. I'm going to show you how to assemble one drawer, and then you'll be able to do both drawers very easily. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong piece there. You decide to put anything in there. A little more dab on this side. And the front goes on. And I should have put a little bead along that edge as well. We have a perfectly square drawer. Now your handles here are wonderful little handles. You are not going to break these guys, so do not be worried about that. You're going to take your X-Acto blade, and it's got a point on each end. You're going to cut straight through that. Takes a little bit of force. Don't be scared of it. Just cut straight down on the very tip. And it's just going to pop them right out like that. You're going to want to dip the edges of these guys. You can stain them or paint them, whatever you want to do. And you just take them and put them right in there, like that. And you can push it in or out as far as you want to go. I usually keep it flush in the inside of the drawer so that it sticks out about this much. And you can see that it just fits right in there like butter. Isn't that beautiful? And the other one will fit right in there as well. This brace beam actually acts for a support for it, and then it stops at the back side of the craft bench. Okay, like I said, I'm going to let you assemble the other one by yourself so that I can keep you going here. But you'll have 2 of those drawers to do. Our next step is to figure out what we want to do with our shelves and our cork board. We have this beautiful little piece of laser cut cork board, and we have this little framing piece for it, but you will be a little confused when you first look at it, thinking, why is there 5 parts to this frame and not 4 parts? Well, there's a good reason for that. We decided to give you a choice and make you actually make some of the decisions on how you want this built. So you have a choice on where you want your cork to go. You have 3 shelf possibilities. You actually have 3 shelves. So if you do decide that you do not want corkboard on there at all, you can use all 3 shelves and install all 3. If you don't want to use all 3 and you want to use 2, like I show in the photographs, you can actually put your cork board up here, and that's why you have one frame option that has a notch cut out of it here and can go to the top. Or you can put your cork board down at the bottom and your frame option stays square. It does not have the notch cut out. The choice really is completely yours. I'm going to show you how to assemble this. I think that we're going to assume that I'm going to put it at the top on this one. So you're not going to use one of these straight flat pieces. You'll just put it to the side because you won't need it. I would take a piece of sandpaper or a sanding stick, just sand that little point off. Makes for a really nice little finish. If you can just sand that down just a little bit. Again, if you want to pre-stain it, you're going to want to do that now before you get it assembled. Or if you want to paint it, do that now as well. You don't want to wait until you get that corkboard glued in. If you do, then you do run the risk of painting your corkboard. Staining it isn't a big deal. It looks really nice, but painting it is going to look a little funny. Sand the edges of these support sides. We debated cutting this all in one piece, but again, we thought it'd be really fun to let you guys decide on how you wanted it in there. So you take the edges and you're going to glue your two supports, your side piece of your frame, in place. Just a tiny bit of glue, that's all you need. Make sure it's flush on the outside edge, like that, because the inside edge is a continuation of this pretty little design. Then you're going to put another little bit of glue on this side of it. I would keep it nice and flat on your surface when you're working on this. It was meant to be a nice thin frame, and it's very difficult to work with up in the air. There you go. Then your cork board just fits perfectly inside there. See that? And it's really pretty. It actually looks like it was meant to be in several pieces. When it's stained, it's very lovely. When you are staining this, the choice is up to you, but I love these Minwax pens. They work great. I am in love with Early American right now, and in the photograph, that is the stain color that I use, and in the directions, that is what I use. So Early American's really beautiful. It's a little bit darker, but not too dark. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue this in place. I would glue the frame first, then just glue the corkboard in there because you know it fits just right. And you are going to cover up this whole set of shelf support holes, but that's okay. We just thought it'd be really fun to let everybody make it their own and make it exactly how they want it. Modularize it. All right. So I'm going to get this little corner here as well. And when you're gluing this up, you really just need to make sure that it is flush with the top and the left side. You can feel that it's nice and flush there. And you see how it fits just perfectly, sits on top of that shelf, those shelf holes, and you'll see why in just a minute. And all I did was I turned this over and just spread a little bit of glue on it. Fun stuff to work with, and it's so beautiful. All right. When my hand goes off screen, I'm actually wiping the glue off my fingers. Okay, put that right in there. Press down to make sure it adheres and it's all secure. See that? And now we're going to glue our shelves in place. You're going to take these little supports here. Again, there is 6 of them. So if you decide that you do want 3 shelves, you're welcome to use them. If you don't, just toss them. They're pretty useless. Unless, well, you can use it for a shelf somewhere else. Maybe you'll decide to install one on the side or something. Again, we're just sanding off the little edges. If you want to stain or paint these a different color, they're really fun to do and make your display, your craft bench, really colorful. All right, so this is the piece here that actually fits into the back of the panel. This is a really nice part in our assembly to use tweezers. And in 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch, you're going to be using tweezers a lot more than I have been. But if you work with those scales much, you're going to know that already. I'm going to turn this over so you can see. And we're just going to pop that right in the back, like that. And it'll be nice and flush. Clean up a little bit of glue. And do the same with the others. If you don't want to be as particular as I'm being, you can also just dip a little bit and the glue will carry on the sides. You by any means do not have to be as picky as I am. Okay, there's another shelf support. We're going to do one more. All right, got all our shelf supports in. Then we're going to put our shelves in place. You have the notches here that fit in the back. These are all laser cut out, so you don't need to sand anything on them. On the 1/4 and the 1/2 inch, you would want to sand. If you want to do any sanding on this kit, at any time, feel free. So that fits right in there. And it would be a good idea to not do what I just did. And don't forget to put a little bit of glue in on top of your support brackets, just to give it one more step of holding it in place. And the second shelf. I don't want a lot of glue, but a little bit. And this time, I'm going to put a little glue on here before I put that shelf in. So you can see what not to do and what to do. This is such an informative tutorial. Alrighty, got that second shelf in. I'm going to clean up a little bit more glue. By now, yours is probably going to be looking way prettier than mine here because you'll have things stained, you'll have some of it pre-painted. And if you don't and you want to paint the whole thing one color, go for it. Or if you want to leave it natural. All right, this here is a fun little piece that we decide to cut that is meant to put paintbrushes in or little paint pots, little tools, whatever you want to do with it. It's just fun. It's little compartment holes to do whatever you want. I'm going to get myself a little bit more glue. We're getting towards the end here. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back side of this. I'm going to spread it pretty thin so it doesn't get in the holes. And this piece is just going to go flush up against the side and the back. Everything is nice and flush on edges. Hold it there for a second. You don't even need to measure. You just make it flush on the right side, flush on the back. If you decided to pull this over to this side, again, it's totally up to you. You can do whatever you want. But if you leave it on this side, there was a purpose for that, and it actually fits exactly underneath the pegboard. And the pegboard fits up exactly against your shelves and your corkboard. You do have a couple little holes in here. If you want to use those to help line you up, you sure can, or you don't have to. We just put them there just as a little extra help. Before you installed your corkboard, you're going to want to paint it, but before you paint it, you're definitely going to want to pop those little annoying tidbits out that are everywhere. I popped most of mine out before I started the video, but they're these tiny little things that will get everywhere when you're working. Sorry about that, but really no way around it. So you're going to take and you're going to glue this in. On the 1-inch kit, it actually could be really fun if you wanted to take some wire. I would stick with probably a 26 or 28 gauge wire, but you could actually make yourself little hooks and little pegs. If you are working in 1/2 inch, you could do the same thing as well. On 1/4 inch, you are getting so tiny. You could do that as an illusion thing, but you may not be able to get very far with it as far as hanging stuff on it. And I would probably stick with about a 32 gauge on the 1/4 inch, a 30 to a 32. So all we're doing is putting a little bit of glue along the edge on the whole corkboard. I don't really want it to get into the holes. I'm not worried about it falling down. I'd rather have those holes look like they're empty, like they should be on pegboard. I think I said corkboard earlier, so ignore that. Okay, I'm going to turn it around, put it in there, flush against the corkboard and flush against the sides. And I'm going to press down. And then I'm going to clean up the edge a little bit. This might be a good stage if you're working to use some little clamps. And a couple little tips when you're working on this whole kit. Basswood tends to warp. So if you're staining, if you're painting, if you paint both sides of what you're working on, it actually will make it less warpy because both sides are wet, so it does not warp as bad. When you're having horrible issues with warpage and you only paint one side, it is like magic. I'm not kidding you. You can paint the other side and it will completely unwarp. And you can put some of this under books and press it, but when I was working on it, it really did not seem like you needed to as long as you painted both sides. So when I painted the pegboard, I did do both sides of the pegboard. And every time I painted one side, I painted the other side. And it really kept the warpage down. So now you have your completed bench with one drawer missing because you're going to make that on your own. Now on the 1/2 inch, it's the same way. The 1/4 inch, I do want to talk about the 1/4 inch. I explained in the directions, because you do have almost all of your little pieces on one motherboard. In the directions, I do explain that you have 2 fronts. You have this front that actually shows you the drawers, and then you have this front that there is a spot for you to make and assemble the drawers, which are here. The reason for that is this is a very thin piece of wood here. It is going to break if you're not careful with it, and if you get frustrated and very upset at it, just maybe forego that if you're not dead set on having drawers that pull out, and you can use this faux front and stain or paint that, and it's still going to look like you have drawers, and you still have your little handles to insert in there, and everything else, all the assembly is exactly the same way, except for you choosing which front you want to use, if you want to mess with the drawers or if you don't want to mess with the drawers. And as you can see, these holes on the pegboard are teeny tiny. So you've got your craft bench assembled, you've got it dry, hopefully you have it painted. You can choose if you want to install little pegs here that you want to hang stuff on. You can put things in the drawers. It really is a fun, easy kit to do. And we also have, if you didn't get them already, we do have tool kits available and a craft bench accessory kit that has a little dollhouse, blueprints, bottles of paint, and bottles of glue, and a gin bottle for your enjoyment. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really wish you a great day and happy fun assembly. Bye-bye.